Good evening and welcome to Modern Spiritualists. I'm Aeson Knight, and joining me tonight is the keen psychic, Dottie the psychic. How are you, darling?
I'm doing very well this evening.
Awesome. Now you've been with Keen for a little over 2 years now, and you've had fun with it.
It's
But Dottie, did you freeze on me? She may have froze, but she's been with us for a little over
it's
two
actually a
years.
time psychic. I'm sorry, you glitched.
You did too. It's happening. It's okay. So anyhow,
Mercury retrograde, y'all.
yeah, it's been a thing. But anyway, you've been with us for about 2 years. How are you liking it?
Yep. And tell you what, it's nice. It's nice. It's uh just the variety of customers, the control over my pay scale. Like honestly, it's provided me a freedom that I've not really had in my professional career.
Right.
I don't think that this is when you come on to Keen, you are accepting that you are now a professional psychic. Like you have to do this for real. And that was a jump that was life changing for me. It allowed me to totally start doing things that I would never have otherwise been able to do
Hmm.
with a 9 to 5.
Right. And with being able to embrace new customers, you've actually started to find your flow there, which is really well. But you grew up in a different childhood than most people. Like you were not the latchkey kid of the '90s.
No, I'm definitely a kid of the 90s though. Like I'm sorry, you glitched. I heard like latchkey kid of the 90s is all I heard.
That you grew up differently. That your father was actually a traveler.
Yes, actually, because it's funny because um so magic has always kind of been a part of my life. The tarot is just kind of an extension of that. But a lot of what I learned, I kind of learned on the road with my dad. Um, like the learning to read people's energies because he was a sword salesman. Well, not just swords. Uh he would do like Ren fairs, medieval recreational activities, and so we would go in costume and we'd pack up in the minivan and we'd go to these events and we would sell swords. We'd set up the booth and sell like all sorts of just really neat things: pouches, belts, jewelry,
Hmm.
blankets, tapestries, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and that would kind of let you kind of explore your own self and deal within that medieval culture for that weekend. So you
Right.
learned how to run a business. You learned got to meet different people of different walks of life. So that really enabled you, I think, to help with your customers.
I really think it did too because I don't know how to put this, but well, I guess I do. I didn't do well in school. I was the weird kid. I never really just fit in. I've always kind of been a little bit different than everyone else around me. Um, and in the mundane life is what we called it, like our day-to-day life. That can be very difficult. So I have that perspective of somebody who is struggling to handle life because I have been there. But I've also, because I've been around other mystical people in the trade, because I did these events with my father, I also have this higher perspective that allows me to give people a viewpoint that is not what they would necessarily have expected. It gives people a chance to look at things differently
Hmm.
because I've seen things completely differently. Like, if a lot of times you can tell that you need to move or that I've heard a lot of people's stories. And
Hmm.
that's another big thing is listening to people. I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned from being a merchant brat
Hmm.
was that people are going because they need an outlet.
Right. And
So
they need that advice. They need that connection there.
they do.
Yeah.
And it can be very hard to establish a connection with somebody. I think that's honestly as much the divination part is my gift, but an extension of that gift is that ability to connect people on a fundamental level that a lot of people don't have, because we're all guarded and protecting ourselves from this constant onslaught of, people's judgment. And honestly, I have wrecked my life so bad that I can't afford to judge you, honey. So you just give crazy Aunt Dottie a call.
Mm-hmm. And you're available on Keen to do that. So you have an interesting first job. What was your first job reading?
Oh, my first job. My first job reading actually was another hotline that was just awful, and I will never go back. But aside from that, was I used to read cards in a Jackson County bar. And I mean, this is backwoods. It was literally called the Roundhouse.
Okay.
And I went in, and I was in a bad relationship, which is another reason I'm really good with like love readings and things like that, is because I've been in so many bad relationships. But my ex would drag me off to the bar on my nights off, and I was working night shift as a nurse, so that's an interesting job right there. But so I would be the only sober one in the bar and have nothing to do. So I got me a pack of index cards, blank index cards, not the lined ones. They're blank on both sides. I got me a little box for them, and I got a pack of Crayola crayons. I got a gel pen and then a regular Bic pen, so I could do some different kind of shading, because I thought it was an interesting look. The hatching was different. And so I would go to the bar, and since I'd be stuck there alone, I would just start drawing these cards. I'm like, because I missed them. Like, that was one of the things that I had kind of cut off for a long time until I started drawing these cards. And that brought my divination back to me. Mm-hmm. It really did. And it took about 3 years to do this deck. Mm-hmm. And I hand drew my very own deck of index cards. And I tell you what, that was cathartic.
Okay.
I know that I've been working on them. I've been going back. I actually got a tablet, mm-hmm. so that I could start actually drawing them out digitally, so that I might be able to do something more substantial with them, because people have said that they really love them. I need to retire the originals because they're breaking down. They're like 8 years old now. It's amazing.
That is a record for a deck of cards. 8 years.
It is a record for a deck of cards, especially since they're like index cards. They're not card stock. They're not nice cards. They're index cards. Right. They're getting soft.
And I'm sure you've coated them in baby powder. What was your inspirations with those?
You know what? Honestly, because I know everybody thinks they're definitely an oracle deck. They're not a tarot deck. Right. And the big difference between an oracle deck and a tarot deck is that everything that's not a specific type of deck is an oracle deck. Mm-hmm. Like a tarot deck has some sort of set form. I mean, not necessarily each card has meanings that most people understand. And yeah, you as a reader may not remember those in the moment. You will go just off the feeling, which mm-hmm. is more important.
Right.
But they are semi-standardized. Whereas an oracle deck is just pure, beautiful, unadulterated chaos. And so my deck is 10 based.
Okay.
It is 10 suits, each one being 10 cards. Okay. And I start the suit with a sort of a flower. It has a stem a lot of times because that's growth. It's, a very masculine card, that penetrating energy.
Right.
That masculine energy. And then the last card of the suit is a butterfly, because that's sort of a completion card, that divine card, mm-hmm. that moving forward card. And from there, I think the sixes I did something cool with, because I would do like every suit, I would add like an extra symbol on there so that they all added up to the number of suits that mm-hmm. it was when I made it. That way I could keep them in some sort of order when I got done with them.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that was interesting.
Yeah. How's it been, working with that connection with spirit with us? Because, of course, spirit was leading and developing this.
Because here's the thing, like those cards, each one of those cards, every time I would make a new one, it would kind of bring me closer to who I knew I really was. Because I realized, here's the thing, Dottie the Psychic, if you get into certain types of philosophy, we'll call it, there is this practice called, it's basically like a magician's mask,
Mm-hmm.
where you become this other person.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very unhappy with who I was when I was living in those conditions. I was in a bad relationship. Was in a career that did not fit me, and I was trying to fix my grandmother's house, but I had no help and no money to
Mm-hmm.
do that. So I was very, very just downtrodden at the time.
Right.
And so, like, each card, I was lonely and bored because I'm the only sober one at a bar in the middle of nowhere.
Minus the
Like,
gun.
which is, it was an interesting time and place that I never have any intentions of going back to. But so each card that I made sort of brought me towards
Mm-hmm.
becoming Dottie the Psychic. With every card, I got a little more confident. And it's funny because the whole Dottie the Psychic thing came about because people were like, "Oh, you're the psychic." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Dottie the Psychic."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, remember my name.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to know that later.
Right. Yeah. You can come back to her later. But,
Right.
so enabling you with the cards and doing through that transformational process has really given you a lot of what I would say is experience, real life experience.
A whole lot of chutzpah.
And a whole lot of chutzpah and a whole lot of like, oh, I see this pattern, I know this pattern, this is where you're going with that. How does your ADHD feed into that?
Um, it's funny because ADHD, it's hard to separate ADHD out from who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I have learned because of the divination, because of the practice, to rather than separate it from myself, to
Mm-hmm.
incorporate it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I call myself, like, I know a lot of people are not okay with calling myself crazy, but like, that's how I cope.
Mm-hmm.
That brings me peace.
Mm-hmm.
That I can sit there and say, okay, well, obviously my brain does not work the same way that every other person in the world's brain works, but I'm okay with this.
Mm-hmm.
I have come to peace with who I am. And I think that process, being on the other side of coming to peace with the way my mind works, has allowed me to help other people reach that place of peace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it also gives me a way to actually look forward. This is no longer something in front of me that is a barrier. It is something I have to work around, but the more I learn about it, the more I allow myself to accept it and work with it rather than around it or over it,
Mm-hmm.
the more it becomes something that is just inherently how I work. I can see advantages to it. I'm never going to call it a superpower because that's honestly, it hurts the community when we call it a superpower because so many times it just completely screws up people's lives because we want to be normal.
Right.
But I don't want to be normal. I'm okay with being weird. I have accepted that I think differently, and that has been something that I can share with other people.
Right. And also your coping mechanisms and your skill set there has enabled that. All right, guys,
Right.
we're going to take our 15-minute break and we'll be right back.
I found out that my husband had been cheating on me, and my whole world turned upside down.
I stressed over any and everything, constantly waiting for the next shoe to drop.
I was attracted to a psychic advisor to get clarity.
I was like, there's no way that's real. But the things that were coming up felt so accurate.
I really need that unbiased, non-judgmental advice. If there's some part of your life that is not quite fitting in, you maybe want to try something that you haven't tried before.
Try psychic reading on your phone. Your first 3 minutes are free. First, choose a topic or method. Second, choose a psychic. Third, start a call or chat. The first 3 minutes are on us. Install Zodiac Psychics now. Talk to a gifted and trusted psychic advisor.
All right, welcome back. So we were talking about how your neurodivergency actually aids you in your readings. What else have you drawn from your life there?
Honestly, here's the thing. Like, it's funny because I am a complicated human being. And because I am a complicated human being, I can help other people who are complicated human beings. Because I'm more than just a neurodivergent person. I am a poly, pan, pagan Pisces who is mentally ill and neurodivergent. And every one of my struggles is a struggle that somebody else is sharing. They may not be sharing all the same struggles, but we're often dealing with a similar struggle.
Mm-hmm.
We can relate. And I can help give advice. And of course, I use my cards.
Right.
And a lot of times it's funny because half of doing a reading is figuring out what energetically is going on with a person. And the second half is talking them through that.
Mm-hmm.
So people will call and they'll ask for, they'll sometimes don't even wait for me to turn the cards. They'll go ahead and just tell me their whole life story. Like I get a lot of early stage trans women. I get a lot of women who are in abusive situations that just need to talk to somebody and get the validation as a human being. Like, yes, you are a person. I'm a person, you're a person. And then that's how we make that connection. And that's always a beautiful thing. It's hard. People don't realize that there's a lot of emotional labor that goes into being a psychic. I have to be prepared to pick up that phone and have a conversation with somebody who's just lost someone and is asking me to help connect with that dead loved one. And then once that phone call ends, the next person may call within, moments and be ready for somebody being rude to me.
Or, dealing with different relationship styles. And with you being polypan, you can understand all those different relationship styles.
Right.
With that.
Right.
Relationships have never been, A plus B equals a relationship.
Honestly, that's true. And here's the thing that you have to start out with in any relationship is clear communication.
Mm-hmm.
Enthusiastic consent. These are the two things that build a relationship. Anything less than that, and you're not going to be able to make that relationship work. Now, there are things that impede those. And sometimes that's really where a psychic comes in, because you get two people who cannot understand each other. And by being able to take this divine perspective, that's what I'm getting paid for, that divine perspective. Being able to take sort of that 1,000-yard gaze at some situation, I'm able to see where the person I'm on the phone with can alter their behavior so that they can get past it, so they can take their next divine step.
Right. And that's the important part, is taking those divine steps. Now, you post weekly blogs, and you actually bring up a lot of subjects that I don't normally see on psychic blogs, like defining religion and having to sit down there and, you break it into detail.
That is one of the things that because I have gone on to Keen, that I have been able to do. I've been wanting to go back to school for a long time. And one of the first classes I really wanted to take was a religions course. Not like a specific religion, but a study of religions. And so I got to take a nature of religions college course. It was an 8 weeks course. And so I'm like, how can I use this? How can I distill this knowledge so that it's usable by other people in a positive manner? So that's kind of what I do with the blogs. A lot of times with the blogs, I'm taking something that I've come encounter with. I'm like, okay, this is one thing that you will find that does make me unique amongst people, is that I realize that I'm not that different from everybody else. Just that
No,
pieces fit together differently.
however, to say things differently.
I do say things differently, but it might be a speech impediment.
Yeah. Meaning like that is, you like, because you have that 1,000 watt gaze that is also 365, because you bounce off in the psychic realm. You can look at things all the way around and why it's connected and how it's connected. It gives you a diverse ability there to look at it and go, okay, so this is religion, and DM5 says this, so how does this fit into this? And very few people bring up the DM5 in religion. Like, that's a different thing.
You know what? And that's the thing. Like, I think if you can get past the idea of being offended,
Mm-hmm.
which is hard because people want to defend their beliefs so hard, but we're going back to that whole Dottie the Psychic Genesis, the beginning of the dot, which could be an article in and of itself. In the beginning,
yes.
I had a lot of strong beliefs, and those beliefs impeded my ability to be psychic. I know I've always been psychic. Like I've seen ghosts since I was like 3 years old. Like most psychics. Sorry, my dog's moving my stand around.
That's okay.
Peanut, stop. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
You're
got the dog in the
fine,
back.
Yeah. Well, that should age your connection with your pets, and you also read pets. But so you saw ghosts at 3?
Yeah, I saw ghosts at 3. I remember one of my first memories is getting in trouble for flipping these switches that were above my bed, like well, that's completely unrelated. See, that's ADHD for you folks. Complete set trip. But yeah, no, I remember I was like 3 years old, and I'm laying in bed, and I look up, and it looks almost like, child of the 90s. It looked almost like television static, except it was really fine television statics, and it was in the shape of this woman who was leaning against the door frame. Sorry, y'all, there goes my dog. One of them anyway. The other one is being good.
Yes.
This woman who was leaning against the door frame looking at me, and a man with his hand on her shoulder kind of beside and behind her. And those are some of my first memories.
Okay.
I've always seen shadow people. Spirits are a very big part of being a psychic. I know a lot of us almost everybody who's psychic is also capable of mediumship, but because of the stigma around it, a lot of times don't provide that.
Right.
I can't guarantee somebody's going to pick up the phone if you want to do mediumship. So that's one thing I will say.
Right. And that's the kind of the harder thing there is, hello doggy, nice to see you. Is with mediumship, it is like having a group call or a team call, but
really,
and it also falls into when you're working with pets.
Speaking of pets,
yes,
Peanut, really Peanut.
He aids your readings all the time, though.
Oh, they do. I tell you what, if you call, sometimes you will hear the dogs showing their butts in the background, just working and hooping and hollering.
Right. And that's normally because they're trying to also provide a reading to the other pet owner, to the pet on the phone with the owner.
I guess sometimes I think I just want to make their presence known. Although it is funny because sometimes Luther will like get my attention and point things out. The one you saw on screen was Peanut. She's a nervous body. I don't pay too much attention to her. But Luther, every now and again, he'll try to get my attention during a reading, and there's just no ignoring him. He can hear me saying his name. That's that thump, thump, thump.
Yeah. But,
Thank you.
and I think that, with you being able to actually look at the larger view of things. It enables you to actually provide a better reading because you're not just reading the cards. You're reading also what's being shown to you.
Right.
You know.
Because you do see, I'll tell you what, there have been times where I've been doing a reading and I've gotten like full visions.
Mm-hmm. You know, and it clicks in that clairvoyancy there. All right, well, let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Try psychic reading on your phone. Your first 3 minutes are free. First, choose a topic or method. Second, choose a psychic. Third, start a call or chat. The first 3 minutes are on us. Install Zodiac Psychics now. Talk to a gifted and trusted psychic advisor.
For so long, everything was difficult because I was allowing it to be and almost finding more comfort in that chaos.
My psychic advisor really helped me stop and take a breath and look within and be okay with what was happening right now.
Having that 24/7 access is amazing. Just a quick moment to get some clarity.
We are here on a journey and we can't always control it. All we can do is be along for the ride.
All right, welcome back. So, you know, what type of readings do you like to get into?
You know what? I love a good variety.
Okay.
I do. It's funny because I will occasionally have somebody like who will request that I not use the cards, and then I will have other people request that I do use the cards. But as subjects go, you know, of course, we avoid the three big ones. I think it's 3.
Yeah.
You know, nothing legal, health, or legal, medical,
or stock market.
or stock market.
Yeah.
Like, so other than that, I'm down to talk about just about anything. Like, I get a lot of romance.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is something that I think everybody has a little bit of difficulty with. Like, even and a lot of times I'll get people who are in happy relationships, but they're like, I feel disconnected. I'm like, okay, well, sometimes the answer is just going out on a date.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels so much heavier when it's your own life.
Right.
And that's a big thing.
Right.
So that's one of the big ones I get. I also get, like I said, I tell you what, my favorite though are people who are in a big transition in their life. I get a lot of those, and like not just the trans people, which I do get a lot of, being LGBT friendly and advertising that and being, you know, crazy Aunt Dottie, and being open to talking about nearly anything. That's only one aspect of it. But people go through transformations that are not quite as dramatic, but can still be pretty life-altering. Mm-hmm. So I get a lot of people who are in that stage where they're somewhere in between and they're feeling lost in the fog. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's more matter.
Okay, she's frozen for a second, guys. We're dealing with Mercury in retrograde and devices.
Take with and where you. Oh,
there you
Hello.
are.
Back.
So you say you get a lot of people in life transition.
Right. Big life transitions, I'm getting ready to move. I need a new job, these sort of things.
Mhm.
A lot of people who just honestly, they need to know. A lot of times you'd be surprised how many people know what they need to do and are working towards that, but really just need somebody to say, like, yeah, you're doing the best you can.
Mhm.
You're doing great. You are holding it together. You are handling an untenable situation with grace.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of times I am, and a lot of times the readings that get to me, the ones that kind of, I'm like, I'm always happy to be there for
Mhm.
these people, but I also break my heart are the ones that are in a lot of men,
Mhm.
gentlemen of color will call a psychic before they talk to a therapist because we, in some ways, garner respect from that community where
Where the give her a
tell.
second to catch up.
Okay. Okay,
There we
so a lot of times they would rather call me and tell me what's going on in their life so that we can help so that I can help them out. And it's kind of sad, like how many of them describe situations that, like, if you were a girl and she was the guy, do you still think this would be okay? And they're like, no. And I'm like, that's because it's not okay.
Mhm.
So a lot of times it's a matter of showing people what my perspective of the situation is.
Right.
It's like, oh, and I gotta tell you, it's kind of funny because I'm always here for those kind of phone calls. They're hard, but I'm
Mhm.
here for them. That's part of my job, is to help you work through difficult times.
Right. And I think that's the part of the job of a psychic. But you're also a mental health advocate. So it's always great when we can say, too big, not my
Yeah,
department.
yeah. And then there are times where you have to tap out. Like, there are
Yeah.
times, yeah. I mean, there are times where they're handling something spiritual, and I'm like, okay, let me give you this advice over the phone. Here's the next step that you need to take. Sometimes that's all I can give you,
Hmm.
is the step from here to there. And then you'll find that person that's going to be able to help you in your,
Hmm.
IRL. But, that's an invaluable step when you're lost in the fog, when you feel like you have no direction and the anxiety is just crashing over you.
Hmm.
We're available.
Yeah.
Like the King commercial says, 24/7.
Right. But when do you normally work? Because no psychic is available 24/7. If they need to stop and start taking care of themselves.
Important part. Huh?
When are you normally available?
I am normally available. So I am on Eastern Standard Time because I'm here in West by God, Virginia.
Hmm.
Um, so I try to make sure that I am on between 10 a.m.
And you're freezing again, sweetie.
time, but become often on more than that.
Yeah, 10 a.m. to about 4, you said?
Yeah, 10 a.m. to about 4:30, and then I am often available in the evenings or on weekends. So if I'm not doing something, like I'm just cleaning my house or something, I'll turn on the app because it's really convenient for me
Hmm.
to be able to just turn on the app while I'm at home, and you can find my profile and see when I'm on.
Right. And if not, they can arrange a call with you because you do take a range of calls.
I do. I think there a scheduling program that.
Yeah, it has a thing for your schedule, but you can click arrange a call or alert when Dottie comes on, and you'll get a text message when she's available. So, what's your favorite tarot deck?
My favorite tarot deck right now is I have a I think it's Anna June. I am butchering that name because it's an Italian deck,
Mm-hmm.
but it is all cats.
Oh,
It is
cool.
cat.
Yeah.
It's pretty standard Rider-Waite alteration.
Mm-hmm.
I've also got one. The standard for tarot is Rider-Waite, so I've got a couple of variations on Rider-Waite, but I love the animal variations of the Rider-Waite decks. I've got one that is gummy bears. I've got one that's cats. At one point, I gave my sister one that was ferrets. She ended up giving it away because with tarot decks, you either drive with them or you don't, and she just didn't drive with the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's sad.
Yeah. And I know that currently you're in the midst of developing a palm reading class.
Yeah. I think that isn't I've really been thinking about putting together a pretty basic palm reading class. And then like I can use Keen to help like people who have problems.
Mm-hmm. That one takes a little bit of work from the client because they have to email you a picture of their palm and then arrange an appointment. But you can do palm readings on Keen.
Okay. I haven't quite figured out. I want to be able to provide palm readings on Keen. Because if I can provide palm readings on Keen, then I can teach you how to do palm readings on Keen.
Right.
Which would be awesome. Because
Right.
I love doing palm readings. They are something that you can learn in 5 minutes, but it takes a lifetime to master. Because every palm is different. And so, sometimes I'll see something that completely throws me and I have to kind of figure it out from the context of the conversation with the client.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's because it's super simple. Most people have a hand. So you don't have to have special materials. You don't have to have your deck of cards or your crystal ball. You don't have to have anything with you to read palms. And they're very good for kind of getting a snapshot of where you are in life.
Mm-hmm.
Palms are great for, they're a big picture view because what you're basically doing is you're looking down into the chakra point in the hand. Because people forget that there's actually they only think of the core 7 chakras, but there's actually like a blue million, and I can't remember the exact number. It's like I can't remember exactly how many bones there are. There's a lot, but there are very important ones.
212 bones.
So there are some very important ones in your hands. These are because you think about it, you're creating your world with your hands. You put your hands on things. People heal things. They laying on the hands to heal. So it's a very strong look into somebody when you do a palm reading. I like to tell people that I do a 3-layered palm reading. You have the first layer, which I like to call the Sherlock Holmes read, which basically you're looking for rings and calluses and cut marks and things that are very obvious. Somebody who works with their hands a lot, their hand's going to be sturdier. Somebody who isn't taking as good a care of themselves, their skin's not going to be as elastic. Things like that. And I'll tell you, when I do a palm reading, I'm like, that's part of the shtick. Is it helps loosen people up. It helps people realize that I'm not just trying to scam them, but I'm actually giving them a real reading when I point out the things that are obvious. So from there, I go into the lines.
You're fine.
Love a dog.
Yes. If someone wanted to do a palm reading, all they would have to do is email you on Keen a picture of their palm, and then you would be able to read from that picture.
You know what? That is now a service that I might be providing because I didn't even realize that was a possibility.
Yeah, like they can email you. They have to do it ahead of time and give you time to see the email. So, like,
Right.
email you in the morning and then call you later the evening or arrange an appointment. And you could actually be able to look there and see the picture of their palm and then tell you what they get on your, what you get off the palm, and then be able to work with their questions. You also do tea leaf readings, but again, that's it's part of your studying as you grew up. You shared with that, or your growing up experiences.
Yeah, my dad loved tea. He was a big tea drinker, and it kind of just developed from there. Because it's actually, I would love to sit down and I love to have conversations about the histories of divination. Like like a lot of divination types start off in like Rome and Greece, and they also develop at the same time in India, and also at the same time in like different parts of Asia, which India is part of Asia, but you know what I mean, like all over the world, they can spontaneously develop depending on where the materials for that are. Especially with like palms, everybody's got a hand, so that's developing spontaneously everywhere. Which honestly, I was thinking about the palmistry. If you wanted to get a palm reading from me on Keen, email me a picture of your palm, and then I will send my response through email, and then you can just pay for that response.
Very much so. That could easily be done, and that is one of the benefits Keen allows there. Or they could even email you and then call you and talk through their situation, which works out very well that way. So let's go ahead and take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the other services you provide on Keen, like your dream interpretation.
I love dream interpretation.
All right, we'll be right back, guys.
Live tarot and psychic readings. Get 3 free minutes on your first session. Find answers and peace of mind anywhere, anytime. Install Zodiac Psychic now and find your spiritual advisor.
Everything was difficult because I was allowing it to be and almost finding more comfort in that chaos.
My psychic advisor really helped me stop and take a breath and look within and be okay with what was happening right now.
Having that 24/7 access is amazing. Just a quick moment to get some clarity.
We are here on a journey and we can't always control it. All we can do is be along for the ride.
Well, welcome back. So tell us about your dream interpretation, because everyone has a different method of doing it.
This is actually something that I think is fairly unique, because people telling somebody your dreams is a way to connect to somebody very, very deeply. You are inevitable. Let's start at the beginning. So, dream interpretation is often, there's 3 levels. I love 3s. There are 3 levels of symbolism in your dream. And the first one and most important one is personal symbolism. So that dream, often by the time people have told me, by the time they've spat it out, they've almost got it figured out themselves. Because that's how people connect to their intuition a lot of times, is through their dreams. And all I really have to do is listen. But a lot of times when people kind of get stuck, it's because they are taking too literal a view of their dreams and not looking at them as a way for their own subconscious, their own higher self to communicate with them. And that is, it's always really beautiful to facilitate that communication, because often people, once they have done that, once they start seeing how that symbolism works,
Mm-hmm.
they can start to really connect with their own intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And especially a lot of times, because a lot of times I get a lot of people who are having stress dreams,
Okay.
and a lot of times those stresses will pop up as monsters being chased, or teeth falling out, things that are very abstract, but of an equally emotional distressing
Mm-hmm.
equally emotionally distressing situations. Like, if you've got a really hard job, if your job is one that is high stress all the time, eventually you're going to have a dream about that job. And when you have a dream about that job, when you end up working a shift for free in your sleep, that means you need to go on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you that one for free. If you start dreaming about the job, you need to go on vacation, because that means you're starting to kind of burn a little bit.
Right.
And you'll start to lose your passion. You start to lose because you're not getting anything from it. Especially if you're working the same job when you're asleep, then you're probably, and it's always the same kind of situation. It's one of those, when people dream about working in their sleep, then it's usually the stupidest, most menial task that they get stuck with. And for some reason, there's some sort of impediment and they keep having to do the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bad dream. People don't really register that that's a nightmare, but once they stop and really think about it, they're like, God, that was awful, and now I got to get up and actually go to work. That is your brain warning you.
Okay.
That is your subconscious warning you that you're putting so much energy into this job that you're not reserving anything for yourself. It has become your sole focus.
Very different in understanding of that. Now, what about some common things people dream about, like, dead loved ones coming to visit? Do you believe
I
that
think a lot of times,
spirits?
right. A lot of times this is one of those things, like, I do get a lot of people who dream of dead loved ones, or they will dream of situations that are relatively benign but then happen. And that a lot of times is your personal intuition, your connection to your higher self strengthening. It is starting to establish itself. The whole point of being alive is to expand and, come back and continue expanding until we reach this sort of, uh, higher state, until we
Okay.
can reach our higher self.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody is on a different point in that path, depending on, you may have done a lot of work in a past life, and then you come into this life and you don't have the vocabulary, it scares you, but in your sleep, you go back to that place where you did know these things, where you were able to do these things. And so your brain is trying to bring that to your real life, and it does that through your subconscious. Like a lot of past life dreams, those are always interesting. People will have a dream of a place or a person from the past where not like in their life past, but it's like past. And a lot of times that usually comes with an obsession or fixation with that time period. And a lot of times when you have that may be somewhere where you had a past life, and either you had a great power, you felt like you were very in tune, and
Mm-hmm.
your brain is trying to remind you of how you got there, or there's something from that time
Okay.
that you're still struggling with,
Mm-hmm.
and the root starts there.
Okay.
A
Very
lot of times with the dead loved ones, that is your mediumship, because ultimately they're going to try to make a connection with you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you dream of grandma and then you wake up and you feel a feeling of peace, and you hear her bell, that may be her connecting with you directly.
Interesting. Now, another dream that a lot of people have is dreams of falling.
Oh, go on. Dreams of falling. That is one of those dreams, those archetypal dreams. So we're gonna go back to the 3 stages of symbolism. Like, the first one is personal.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is personal. The second one is cultural. Like if you were to have a dream about this podcast, then that would probably mean something that everybody could understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is archetypal.
Okay.
And the falling dream is one of those archetypal dreams, like losing all your teeth, or what's another one? Flying. A lot of times people will fly and then they'll fall, and a lot of times that means that you're starting something new and you're scared.
Okay.
Falling can mean
Let her catch up.
I'd like to know, and you hit the ground. That has actually honestly happened to me. I have dreamt that I was flying and then I smacked right into the ground, and I swear I felt it. But that was because I was not allowing myself to fly. I would panic and there I would come down to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And that would stop me.
Okay. Well, what about if they're having like nightmares? Like we've gone beyond dream, we've moved into nightmares or reliving situations in our life.
So there's different types of nightmares as well. And we're going to go back to, and some of those are are above my pay grade.
Uh-huh.
If you're having nightmares that take you back to a specific situation where you're dreaming that you're being attacked, and it's something that has happened in your life, that can be a symptom of a mental illness, and I would not be able to help you with that. Which happens. That is something that you would need to speak to a therapist about. But a lot of times when you start to get into the nightmares, sometimes it can be, it's not usually very often, but it can be something dark in your house or somebody sending something dark to you, which is honestly usually a way easier fix than people think it is. It's usually like some guy who just wouldn't move on, or it's just somebody who has fixated on you, and it's really not as terrible as it sounds. A couple of good cleansings, put some salt around your bed, and you're good to go. Cleanse your house, and that's all there is to it. A lot of times when you get into nightmares, a lot of them are stress dreams. This is what I get a lot of, more than anything else. When people call for a dream interpretation, they've had some dream where they're being chased, or their world is crashing down on them, or something in that nature, and it's a reflection of what's going on in their life. It's a moment where like they don't really know that you get those kind of, and nightmares is a vague term. You definitely need to pay attention to how you feel in your dreams, because that is context. Like if you call me for a dream interpretation, I want as much detail as you can give me. I want to know how you feel during the dream. I want to know how you felt when you first woke up. I want to know if it was vivid, if it was black and white, if you recognize things, if you didn't recognize things, what things were more detailed, what things were just sort of there. What did you know was there but didn't actually see? What did you know was said but didn't actually hear? These things. As much detail as possible, because the more detail, the more context for that dream, the easier it is to tell if it is something that's above my pay grade, like it is something that is maybe related to trauma. If it's something that is related to a negative spirit or just negative energy in your house, or if it's something that you need some life guidance so that you can sort of remove yourself from the situation that's stressing you out. It can also tell me if it is prophetic. Often more vivid, lifelike dreams can sometimes be prophetic. And it's funny because some of the prophetic dreams that I've had to interpret, it wasn't so much that the dream was anything. It was people like freaking out because like I dreamt of going to the gas station and buying a pack of bubble gum. And then that made me want to go buy a pack of bubble gum. And when I went to go buy the pack of bubble gum, everything was exactly the same way that I was when I dreamt it. That's actually a pretty common one for people who are getting ready to go through a massive awakening. People who are very, very in tuned, are starting to really to get onto their path or have been on their path for a while, and they're getting ready to.
Give her a second.
And Mercury's in full retrograde, and it's taking my phone with it.
Yes, it is. Well, does it matter on the perspective of the dream whether you're in person or watching it?
Kind of.
Okay.
If you're outside of yourself watching it, it means that you have externalized the locus of control. That means you feel like you have lost control of your situation, and that is not a healthy place to be in. And it may just be a matter of standing up for yourself that will end that dream. The ones that get me are the ones that are like repetitive. Like if you have a recurring dream, your brain is like, hey, dude, could you pay attention? Pay attention. We're going to keep doing this until you get it.
Okay. You know, those were always the ones I always pay attention to. That and when, like, you know, someone crossover shows up is when I pay a lot of attention to the dream. Like, I will write it down in my planner. So, you know, dreams are interesting. You work in all types of relationships. Doesn't matter the combination of the parties.
Right.
You know, you also work with life questions and, of course, spiritual and jobs and careers. Is there anything that you just do not like reading on? Other than our big three that, you know, we can't read on for legal reasons.
The one thing that it will piss me off of that, sorry. One thing I don't like to do is I'm being paid to interpret the signs. A lot of times people will call me and they'll ask me exactly what the cards say. I'm like, if you want to know exactly what the cards say, you're capable of turning those cards yourself. You're paying me for my connection to the divine more than my connection to the cards. Like the cards are paper until I charge them, until I shuffle them. I understand people want a quick reading, and I do try to be efficient, but it's not efficient to throw out my interpretation just to have me to turn the cards and literally spell out using the cards exactly what I just said. It's kind of rude. It's happened quite a few times, and it's kind of rude.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm pretty easygoing. Most of the time, I prefer people to call me because they got problems. Or they want to, you know, if you want to check the weather, that's cool with me. If you just need somebody to talk, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. You know, you're very great on dream readings. You do great with life questions and complicated relationships. Like Dottie specializes, I think, in complicated relationships.
Luther. Hello, Luther.
Hello, Luther. You also do pet readings, very much so with the help of a Luther. And for those wondering, you can reach Dottie at extension 05.
I don't do pet reading.
Yeah, you do.
There we go. Hello.
Hello, Luther. Hello, Dottie.
Lay down.
You can reach Dottie at extension 05260107. And of course, that is 1-800-ASK-KEEN, or you can go right over to the Keen website. The link is down there in the description. You can click her profile. Keen always has their, first 3 minutes free if you're new to Keen, or they may, they're always running really good specials. And Dottie is a reasonable psychic. She's at $3.99 per minute. And that's always subject to change. You also have a tagline on all your profiles. Do you want to go very quickly over that?
That's DOTDIE, the psychic, and you can find me on KEEN.com.
Yes.
Safe travel and much profit to you. Sorry.
That one there, the safe travel and much profit to you. Do you want to tell our listeners what that's about?
That is actually something my father used to say when we were at events, because we travel all over. you're there. If you're traveling all over the nation, you may not ever see these people again. People that you make real connections with, people who would help you out when you're in a bad situation. And all you can really do is wish them well when the event's over. Everybody goes their own way. So he would wish them safe travel and much profit.
Yeah. And
And
you
that stuck with me.
going on. Very cool. Thank you, Dottie, for sitting down with us tonight and for joining us. And I hope your clients, reach you and actually get a lot of help with you. Guys, I will be back next Friday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll see you then. Bye, y'all.
Bye.